There are many different types of enemies that you're going to have to deal with while exploring through the complex. Strikers, giants, scouts, chargers, and the list continues to go on. By far, one of the most, if not the most difficult enemy for the average player to deal with, though, would be the tank. Just simply shooting him from the front isn't going to get you anywhere. You're going to have to coordinate with your team and work together to pop each of those backside tumors until this beast of an enemy finally falls to its knees. Hey, buddy. That, or, well, I guess you could also do that. Hello everyone, Professor Scaler here, and welcome to the alternate R4C1 level guide. Just like always, we're starting off with your loadout, and this time around, that is going to be a biotracker, a mine deployer, and two close to mid-range sentries that are decent at killing enemies. So specifically, the burst and the shotgun sentries. The reason why I recommend the biotracker is because the lighting in this level isn't really the best from time to time, and there will be some rooms that are either pitch black darkness or they will have some lighting, but they will have chargers in them, which are a little bit harder to see, so nice to have a biotracker for those moments. And there's also going to be plenty of moments where during alarms, enemies can come at us from multiple different directions, so having a biotracker, that way we could tag the enemies and give our teammates some information on just how many enemies there are in the wave and how far away they are from us, can help them make some better decisions. When it comes to the mine deployer, I like taking this into the level since there is a blood door we're going to have to deal with, and mines can make a blood door a whole lot easier to deal with. And there are also going to be plenty of doors during these alarms that we could shut to delay enemies, and then a few doors that lead directly into our room that we could shut and mine. So once the enemies break down the door, a lot of them will be piled up, and the mines will put in a lot of good work. And last but not least, when it comes to sentries, I'm recommending specifically burst and or shotgun sentries, mostly for the secondary objective in this level. If we're doing a main objective only run, we could definitely take a C-foam launcher, as there are plenty of doors we can utilize mines and C-foam with. But when it comes to the optional objective, we're going to have to deal with a 12 code uplink, and there are going to be two entrances that enemies could take to get to the room no matter what. Or at least technically no matter what. I guess there are ways you can manipulate this, but I will not be covering those as I don't find it to be necessary. So having a sentry in both directions enemies can approach from, as well as one person dedicated to each side and then just one rotating person while the fourth person focuses on the terminal, can make the secondary objective a whole lot easier to deal with. As for why I like burst or shotgun sentries, auto sentry isn't really all that bad, but I'd rather have something that could kill enemies, not necessarily stagger enemies. And the sniper sentry isn't really the best in close quarter combat, which is what you're going to find yourself in when you deal with the uplink. Yes, biotracker symbiosis could help out with this issue, but I don't like the idea of pretty much always having to tag enemies with a biotracker to make one of my sentries actually useful, which is why I prefer burst or shotgun, as shotgun does pretty decent work even without biotracker symbiosis. Dropping down into level, you'll see that your main objective is to bring the data sphere with you to the end frame, which is always going to be located inside zone 78, and then you're going to extract with it afterwards. And you and your teammates, along with that data sphere, are going to be starting off inside zone 72. In here, there's going to be plenty of rooms for you to go throughout. Some of them will be completely empty of enemies, while others will have a fair amount of them in there. There's also going to be resources for you to collect, as well as a color keycard, which you need in order to unlock the security door to zone 74, and a power cell that you have to plug into the nearby generator in order to unlock the security door to zone 73. So go throughout the area, and once you've found all of that, you can take the power cell as well as the data sphere to the far western side where you'll find that security door as well as that generator, and just leave those there for the time being. We're then going to backtrack to the eastern side to the security door to zone 74, as we're going to have to collect a bulkhead key from all the way back in here first before we could continue on with either the main or the secondary objective. So before we deal with the security door zone 74, we're going to have to deal with a class 4 alarm, and as you can see with the map overlay, there are a few different locations enemies could possibly spawn from, but there are plenty of doors we can shut to delay the enemies. So every single door I've highlighted, make sure you shut them, and then the two that lead directly into your room, make sure you place mines on them, as well as one sentry facing towards each of those doors on the inside of the room with you. Once everything is up, you can activate the alarm and get to work on the scans, and once this alarm is finished, you can pack up your sentries and head into zone 74. And there, not really a whole lot to take note of, just some enemies and resources, as well as 3 more security doors. One to zone 75, one to zone 76, and one to zone 77. All 3 of these are going to be blood doors. However, you do not need to head into all of them. You only need to go into the one that has your very first bulkhead key in it. So if you haven't already, hop onto a terminal and query where the first key is. That way you know which one of the 3 zones you'll be heading into. Then once you know, head over to the door and place a mine on it, open it up, and fall back a bit. The mine should deal with most, if not every single one of the chargers that spawn in from the blood door, although there might be some sleeping enemies inside the first room, potentially even a scout actually, which might wake up afterwards that you're going to have to deal with. But once everything from the initial point of it have been dealt with, you can then head into the zone and start looking around. Be cautious though, as these zones are covered in pitch black darkness and will typically have a fair amount of enemies, both smalls and bigs, as well as the one scout I mentioned earlier. So just go throughout them, either dealing with the enemies or sneaking past them, looking for the resources and whatnot. And once you have the resources as well as the bulkhead key, you can head out of this sector, head all the way back to Zone 72, and then go to the far western side to where that security door to Zone 73 is located at. This security door though is going to have a class 5 alarm tied to it, so before we open it up, we're going to have to deal with that. And as you can see with the map overlay, there's only one possible spawn location for enemies, and they're always going to go through these 2 doors to get to you and your teammates. So make sure both of them are shut, and then mind the door that leads into your room, and then of course place your 2 sentries in the room facing towards that door. Then when you're good to go, activate the alarm and get to work on the scans, and once this alarm is finished, you and your teammates can head into Zone 73. And when it comes to Zone 73, in here there are going to be a fair amount of sleeping chargers, so be a little bit cautious of them. And there's also going to be 3 more security doors. One to the north, which is currently under lockdown, one to the west, which is your secondary bulkhead door, and one to the south, which is your main objective bulkhead door. And up in the northwest corner of the zone, you're going to be able to find your bulkhead door control. So once you've gone throughout this area, dealt with all the enemies and grabbed the resources, you're going to want to help there, plug your bulkhead key into the door control, and then you're going to have to do whichever one of the 2 full team scans. If you and your teammates are only doing the main objective and you don't care about watching the secondary portion of this guide, feel free to skip to the time that you see on screen, and there we're going to continue talking about Zone 78 and then also make it safely to extraction. For everybody else though, we're going to be doing the secondary objective, which means we have to head over to the western side of the zone where our bulkhead door to Zone 311 is going to be waiting for us. Now, before we continue on with the rest of the secondary objective and actually get into the zone itself, we're going to have to deal with a class 3 alarm that's tied to the bulkhead door. And as you can see with this map overlay, there are 2 different locations enemies could possibly spawn from. However, every single one of the enemies that spawn during this alarm are going to be regular chargers, so a little bit more powerful than our average striker and shooter alarms. However, there's still plenty of things we could do to make this go by quite a bit more smoothly. First of all, these 2 doors right here, you can shut and mine both of them. The southern door should already have been broken down because of the previous alarm, so we can't do anything with it. But we have 2 sentries that we could place near that open security door on the far eastern side. That way, once the chargers do make it into the room, they get picked off a little bit by those sentries. As for us, we just really need to focus on the scans and then deal with any of the chargers that slip by the sentries and make it all the way over to us. Biotracker person, try to tag enemies as often as you can, as the chargers can pretty easily sneak up on you in this room. Once you finish the alarm though, you can go back out, pick up your sentries, and then you can head into Zone 311 itself. And upon entering into the zone, you're going to see that your secondary objective is to find a specific terminal and create an uplink with it. And there are 2 different terminals in this zone, one of which is going to be the one you need, and both of them are located towards the far western side of the zone. So make your way through here, deal with all the enemies. There shouldn't be any scouts as far as I'm aware, so you don't have to worry about that. But there will be plenty of enemies, but also plenty of resources for you to collect. And I would recommend that as you're going throughout the zone and you're grabbing those resources, any 2 or 3 uses, go on ahead and just use up right away to resupply. But any 4, 5, or maybe even 6 uses, hold on for the time being. You're going to actually want to save these for when you're dealing with the uplink itself, as this uplink will have a total of 12 codes to it, which means you're going to be holding out for a pretty lengthy duration. Which means you're more than likely going to have to resupply yourselves halfway through the uplink. So hold on to the bigger packs and just use the smaller ones for the time being, and just make your way through the zone bit by bit. Also, go on ahead and keep an eye out for your second bulkhead key, as it will be located somewhere inside of the zone, so you can grab this before you even finish the objective. Once you clear out every single one of the rooms of enemies though, and you've grabbed all of the resources and resupply best as you can for the uplink, and you're holding on to any excess packs, you're then going to want to start setting up your defenses, which the 2 uplinks are in different rooms, but thankfully, the setup for both of them is almost the exact same. As you can see with the map overlay, if you have that terminal in the far western room, there's only one possible spawn location for enemies, and there are a few different doors they could go through to get out of that initial room, but no matter what route they take, there's only 2 doors that lead directly into our room. So what I recommend you do is make sure every single one of the highlight doors is shut to delay the enemies, and then the 2 that lead directly into your room, make sure you mine both of them, and then when it comes to you and your teammates, just have one person dedicated to that northern door along with a sentry, one person dedicated to the southern door along with another sentry, and then the third person on your team can sort of rotate back and forth between the two groups depending on which side needs help more, and the fourth person could just simply stay on the terminal and get to work on every single one of the codes one after another. If you and your teammates are in that southern room though, your map overlay is going to look like this. Two different locations enemies can spawn from, but once again, only two doors they will pretty much ever take to get into your room. There are technically two doors over here, but as far as I'm aware, if you have both of them shut, they should always go for this door right here, and they'll never touch the other one. So shut every single one of the doors, mind the two red labeled doors, and then pretty much the same thing. One person, one sentry on the western door, one person and one sentry on the eastern door, one rotator, and then one person who focuses on the terminal. As I mentioned earlier, there will be a total of 12 codes to this uplink, so it will take you a little while to finish, especially if the person on the terminal is not the fastest typer in the West. So have some resource packs on hand, that way you can refill the sentries or your guns, or maybe even heal up a little bit. As throughout this uplink, you're going to have to deal with a lot of regular strikers and shooters, but there will be a few chargers here and there, and you'll probably lose a little bit of HP as you're going throughout the uplink. But assuming you're able to survive all the way to the end of the 12th code, you just have to deal with any enemies that are still left alive. Then just pack up your sentries, resupply, make sure you have the second bulkhead key and all the other resources inside the zone. And with everything in hand, your secondary objective is completed. You can just head back out into zone 73 and then make your way to the bulkhead door control, plug your key into it and do the main scan, and that will unlock the bulkhead door to the south to zone 78. So head on over there, open it up as there's no scan tied to the door, and we can continue on with the rest of the main objective. Alrighty, continuing on with the rest of the main objective. There's not really a whole lot left to do. We just opened up the security door to zone 78, which didn't even have a scan tied to it. And inside zone 78, there will never be any sleeping enemies, but there will be more resources for us to resupply with, and that in-frame will be located in the middle of the room. But before we go over there and plug the data sphere into the in-frame, we are going to want to set up a few final defenses, because right after we plug the data sphere into it, it's going to cause an extraction alarm to initiate. This extraction alarm is going to be spawning in two hybrids right off the get-go, but never again afterwards, and then it's going to be spawning in two regular strikers and shooters roughly every 10 seconds. So not many enemies per wave, but those waves are spawning in fairly quickly. So we're going to want to set up a few more defenses, as that security door to zone 79 on the northern end of that hub room is going to unlock, and we're going to have to go through there to get to our forward extraction. But the security door to zone 79 is going to have a class 3 alarm tied to it. As you can see at the map overlay, there are a few different locations enemies can spawn from. There is one location over to the west and a single door you can utilize, so make sure you shut and mine this one. Although if you're doing a main objective only run, this spawn point doesn't exist, so you actually don't have to worry about it. And then there are two spawn locations over to the east. Now this door right here is more than likely broken down because of a previous alarm, and these two doors might be broken down, but they might still be intact, and if they are, go on ahead and shut them and mine them. And then when it comes to your sentries, if you're doing a main objective only run, both the sentries are going to be facing towards that eastern security door, but if you are doing a secondary run, one sentry to the west, one sentry to the east, and you should be good. Once everything is set up exactly how you want it and you've resupplied with your teammates and healed up a bit, you can plug the data sphere into the in-frame, wait for the animation to finish, then one person picks it up and you quickly hightail it over to the security door to zone 79. And then once you get over to that side of the room, activate the alarm, get to work on the class 3 scans. Shouldn't take you too long to finish all of these, but make sure you're being careful that you don't get overwhelmed by enemies, as a fair amount of them will probably make it past your sentries. But once you finish every single one of the scans and you deal with all of the alarm door enemies and you're back to just simply dealing with those two extraction alarm enemies every 10 seconds, you're then going to want to open up that security door to zone 79. Although you're going to want to be a little bit careful, because inside of zone 79, not too far away from that door, is going to be a sleeping tank. Now this tank does not automatically open up, but sneaking past it isn't really an option, because at the back end of the room is your security door to zone 80, which is going to have a full team scan tied to it. And that full team scan actually takes a little while to finish. So if you try to sneak past it, there's almost a guaranteed probability that the extraction alarm enemies are going to run into the room, scream, and then wake up the tank. So we're going to want to deal with them first, which you can either do it the old-fashioned way of just simply spreading out, some people on the western side, some people on the eastern side, just shooting him as he turns around and looks at the other people, or you could use the good old mine trick where you place down 8 or 9 mines, sort of like you saw in the background footage, which as soon as the tank runs through them, it should theoretically just insta-kill him. Sometimes this trick seems to not really work because the tank hitbox can be a little bit weird, but if you have a lot of excess mines and you just don't really feel like shooting at him, you could do it this way. Although I would recommend that if you and your teammates are not that familiar with dealing with a tank by shooting at it, take advantage of it right now to actually get some good practice in, because you're going to need to know how to do that for some of the later levels in this rundown, as well as rundown 5 and future rundowns. But if you really just want that clear and you don't care about trying to actually learn how to kill a tank properly, then by all means, go ahead, use the mine trick. I can't really stop you. Either way though, once the tank is dead, just pick up that data sphere and then just slowly make your way to the far north inside Zone 79. We'll find that full team scan, activate the door, hop onto the scan, and wait for it to finish gain progress. And once the door is unlocked, open it up and walk right on into Zone 80. In there are never going to be any sleeping enemies, it's just simply the extraction scan at the back of the room, and upon stepping into it, a proper extraction alarm isn't even going to initiate. You still just simply have 2 small enemies coming after you every 10 seconds, which, yeah, really isn't that difficult. Even if you're completely out of ammunition, you could just have 1 or 2 people focus on melee killing them while the other people stand the scan, and you should be perfectly fine. Either way though, once you get that scan all the way up to 100%, you're done and you have completed alternate R4C1. And that's all there is to it. Alternate R4C1 was actually a level that I was really interested in playing when Alternate Rundown 4 released, as there was a specific change I was really hoping to see. My biggest gripe with the original R4C1 was that you could easily see the tank through that window on the security door to Zone 79 before you even open it up, which sort of ruined the surprise of a brand new enemy, as you can look through and even see the tumors on its back, which would give you an idea that it might be something similar to that of the Birther. And as GTFO's second mini-boss type enemy, I was expecting it to have an epic introduction like the Birther did back in Rundown 3. But I guess it just sadly wasn't meant to be. If only 10 Chambers changed it to an Apex door in this version, that way players wouldn't be able to see the tank until after they open up the door, while they were also scrambling to escape from the extraction alarm and make it safely back to their hydrostasis units. As always though, thank you for watching this video all the way to the very end. I do hope that it was able to provide you with some assistance in beating this level. If you have any tips or tricks to this level that you want to share, any questions for me, or you just have something in general that you would like to say, please do let me know down in the comments. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me, and if you want to join my lovely community, there's a link to my Discord down in the description, as well as some other links you might be interested in. Among those links being one to the official GTFO merch store, which, as always, I highly recommend you check it out if you're a fellow GTFO enthusiast and you're looking to pick up some sweet merch. Until next time, pull out those barbecues and call some friends over, as it's finally summertime, or at least I think it will be summer when I make this video public, and hopefully I'll see all you wonderful people in the next video.